After a horrific weekend of civilian deaths during so-called ceasefires that were anything but, the West is working urgently on further help for Ukraine. Today's long-awaited economic crime bill aims to clamp down on dirty Russian money, but many think it doesn't go far enough. David Davis, former Brexit Secretary, has put forward an amendment to the bill, and I'm delighted he joins me now in the studio. The government are rushing through new laws to make quicker sanctions possible as quickly as possible. Why is that not good enough for you?
Well, first you've got to do the government are doing it as fast as they can, and of course, you know from your own time in Parliament, the faster the government does something, the worse a job it makes of it, I'm afraid. And so it's not a perfect bill by a long measure. There are two types of sanctions. There are sanctions against the Russian state, in effect, and the sanctions against the oligarchs. My worry is that by the time we get around to bringing these sanctions into play against the oligarchs, the ones who are actually guilty of anything will have moved all their yachts, their cash, their assets, and they'll have sold off the ones they can't move, whether it's flats or football teams. You know, so what I've said is, look, let's name all the ones we're looking at. You know, they're not necessarily guilty, they're just people that are being looked at. And for the interim period, just say to them, you can't sell off your assets, you can't move them outside the jurisdiction, you can't transfer them to other people, just for however long it takes, probably 6 months. You know, it's not a great imposition. It's a bit like frankly being on bail when you're before trial. You can't run away. Well, this is ensuring your assets can't run away. Otherwise, we're going to be made to look fools. I mean, the simple truth is that they'll all have moved their assets, and the ones we're trying to focus in on will find there's nothing to do.
You're a very influential Commons figure. What are the chances of you getting the amendment that you've just defined?
I think moderately good. I mean, if not at the Common stage, the Lords stage, because we've got two stages. Tomorrow we've got the Lords, and the truth of the matter is that the ministers actually are bending over backwards to be as helpful as they can. I mean, for a variety of reasons. Number one, we are maintaining an extraordinary unity in the Commons. I mean, you know, even Keir Starmer yesterday said he wasn't going to call for Boris to resign whilst this was going on. So you know, all sorts of things are being done to that end to maintain national unity. Secondly, the government doesn't want to be sitting there saying we're doing everything possible, and people like me and other people in the Commons saying, no, you're not, you should have done this. You know, they want to maintain the moral high ground, if you like. So for lots and lots of reasons, and actually the junior ministers on this are pretty reasonable people. I mean, Paul Scully and Damien Hind, they're good people. So I think we've got a decent chance, but you know, it's a very strong argument to be had. You
talk about how important national unity is. What do you say to the suggestion that the government could make that actually you're damaging national unity by saying they're not going far enough and seeking to put these amendments down?
What I am? Oh, well, no, I don't think so. This is the House of Commons. We're there to debate things. We're there to make the government do a better job. I mean, one of the things that's been noticeable through the COVID 2 years is that actually the quality of government decisions has been poorer than it would have been had ministers had to come to the House and defend what they were deciding and actually think it through properly. I mean, you'll know from your own days, ministers, when they're going to come to the House of Commons, the civil service all pile in to get it exactly right, because they don't want people like me or you back in the day, to pull them apart. They want to get it right. And so the actual operation of the Commons is good for the outcome, and that's what we want. We want at the end of the day to make it impossible for the Russian establishment to maintain this war. That's what we want to do. That's, you know, punishment, you can feel good about punishing people, but actually it's about stopping what's going on. It's about stopping the killing of innocent people. And if we can do that better by one or two amendments, fine. Actually, there are about 30 pages of government amendments down, in truth. So plenty of people. And everybody's treating it constructively.
You praised Keir Starmer for not calling on the Prime Minister to go in the current circumstances because he had done during all the Partygate affair.
Yeah.
Wasn't the only one calling for him to go?
No, it wasn't, and I'm taking the same rule.
You're taking the same rule?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you regret calling for him to go?
No.
No,
but I did what needed to be done, that's all.
OK, let's have a look at the criticisms that the government is facing over refugees. Mm-hmm. Just 50 visas granted. Labour say that is shameful. They say the government should send Home Office officials to set up an emergency centre in Calais and provide emergency protection visas.
Well, the first thing to say is I think Priti Patel, who's normally very tough on immigration, has actually said that she's going to take hold of this issue personally and sort it out. So that's quite a big signal straight away. But there's also something else that we should be conscious of. Look, these are going to be predominantly women and children. The young men are being kept to fight the war. You know, it's women and children and very old men. That's who it'll be, and what that means we've got to worry about housing, education, social support, and so on. So we've got to do it right. I mean, it's not just a question of numbers and headlines in tabloid newspapers. It's a question of getting it right. And I actually asked Priti last week at the last statement in the House, I think. You know, are we talking to other Europeans? Are we sorting out how many we're going to take? Because we're looking at, I mean, I would not be surprised if we end up with 5 million refugees coming out of Ukraine, maybe more. It's already well over 1 million. And our fair share of that's probably 500,000, you know, or thereabouts, or north of 500,000. Now, that's a lot of people to take on board. That's a lot of houses to find. That's a lot of school places to fill. And we've got to get that right. So I think there's a bit more to it than just numbers. I've got entire sympathy with it. 50 is not enough. It certainly isn't. But the simple truth is, Priti's on top of that. But she's got to do more than just say, oh, we'll have all these numbers. She's got to say how we're going to deal with it too. And it's true not just for us. And the comparison that was being made on your programme was made on other programmes earlier. Oh, well, this is much less than Poland and Romania. Well, they're right on the doorstep. Of course it's much less than them. And it will probably always be much less than them, because if I were a Ukrainian, I wouldn't want to go 1,000 miles. I want to go 50 miles and hope I can get back quickly. So, but nevertheless, we have to prepare for hundreds, many hundreds probably, of thousands of people coming here. And that's more than just signing a bit of paper. There's a lot of preparation that goes into that.
You've talked about, and you're going to be talking in the House of Commons about how to clamp down on oligarchs. Should Evgeny Lev, should he have been made a lord in your view?
I don't know much about Evgeny. I don't know what the nomination was. Normally there's a reason for a nomination, whether it's charitable contributions or whatever. What I would say is, as a general principle, that if you come from Russia and you've made, or your father has made, or your family, however it's done, was an important part of the Russian state, in the case of his father, a KGB officer, and was and then made $1 billion or whatever, or something of that order, during the sort of era immediately after Yeltsin, or during Yeltsin immediately afterwards, there's an instant suspicion about this. Is this clean money? Is it legitimate? I mean, I have my doubts about the whole gold visa policy in the first place, which dates right back to the late 90s and early thousands. Then I think, there probably has to be a slightly higher bar to cross for that. So I don't know the details of Evgeny, I'm afraid, but I think if I were on the House of Lords Commission, I'd be saying, well, the bar for somebody with that background is a little bit higher.
OK. And of course, number 10 say all appointments are vetted by the House of Lords appointment system. David Davis, thank you so much for coming in today. We were really pleased when we heard that you were available. So thank you. Thank you. Informative as ever. Yeah.